I never used to be able to dance unless I had 5, 6, 10, 12, 15 beers. Couldn't do it. It was impossible for me because I was filled with shame, self-doubt. I was filled with guilt, anxiety. I didn't know who I was as a person. I felt horribly insecure. So I couldn't dance. There was no way. All of those wonderful attributes I just explained to you were not a part of my life. However, that all changed 1991, January 6th. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got to that point. I was standing outside the church doors at St. Andrew's Church on Barry Down. Most of you guys know where that is. I had decided that I needed to come to the fork in the road, and I had 2 directions I could go into. I can go into the usual direction, the direction that my life had taken me so far, or I could change my life drastically and face the inner demons that were a part of me and the struggles that I had up until that point. That was a really, really big and pivotal moment for me. So this fork in the road, I think everybody has a fork in the road and a time in their life when they have to make that decision. Which, am I going to go chaos, or am I going to become a better person? And when you decide to take the harder road, and it is much harder, much more painful, and much more of a struggle, at least that's what I found out. There's these inner demons that you have to face, and you have to use truth and honesty. And I like to use the metaphor of a dragon. There's a dragon, and the dragon is something that's very much a truthful archetype that is psychologically embedded in each and every one of us. So the dragon is this big, ugly, scary creature that will breathe fire and literally kill you. So here I was standing outside these doors, ready to face this. I didn't know exactly how it was going to manifest, but I was ready to take the steps. I had done 2 of 3 steps up until that point. The first step, I had decided I needed to do something. So making a decision is very, very powerful. Decision is actually a chapter in the book, Think and Grow Rich. If you haven't read that book, it's the best self-improvement and business book in the world ever. Think and Grow Rich. There's a whole chapter dedicated to decision. So I decided. The second step, take action. Well, I was there. I was outside the doors. I put my coat on. I got in my car. I put my winter boots on, and I drove to St. Andrew's Church, ready to go on to the third step. It was kind of weird, I was standing outside, and I'll tell you, I was scared. Like, I was scared shitless. I was really, really nervous. Thank God I had the wherewithal to ruminate and be aware of this question, which was the third step. And I looked up into the sky. It was one of those, cold, dark, crunchy winter nights. Very, very cold, 0 wind, no moon, no clouds. And I looked up, and I was like, oh, there's a couple of snowflakes. How's that possible? There's no clouds. And, you get those specular snowflakes, and then I went right back to being scared. I was really nervous. So I had decided, I had taken action, and nothing would have mattered if and until I took the third step. And that was the question that I asked myself as I stood outside those doors. Am I committed? Without commitment, nothing matters. Because my other option was to turn around, go back in my car, and go home and stay on my dark, dismal path. So I asked this question, and I'm grateful to this day that I was able to ask that question. Am I committed? Because without commitment, nothing matters. And as you all know, with commitment, when you commit fully, 100%, all in, the universe moves too. All sorts of wonderful things happen. All sorts of magic, all sorts of gifts. Looking back, especially in the first few years after I stepped into my first 12-step meeting and admitted I was an alcoholic, amongst various other things, I was able to face my demons and face that big dragon on the road. And it's kind of weird, I realized this, and it's good to know this. The dragon. You step onto your path, you see the dragon, and it's scary. If you get to that point and you're willing to eyeball the dragon and draw your sword, metaphorically speaking, and do battle with the dragon, poof, he's gone. Like that. But standing outside, I didn't know that because I was scared shitless. So, boom, on the path, draw your sword, ready, poof, he's gone. Swing, poof. That's the way it worked. And the gifts that flowed into my life from that moment on were beyond anything I could have ever imagined. I quit smoking within 7 days right after that meeting. And I was a hardcore smoker, like hardcore. There was no way I could quit. I joined Toastmasters 3 weeks later. 1991, that's when I joined Toastmasters. One of the scariest but most amazing things I'd ever done in my entire life. I took some university courses that spring. I never felt like I was worthy of going to university. You know, I felt like a worm inside. I felt like a piece of crap. That's why I couldn't dance before. So these wonderful gifts were flowing into my life, and I had no idea what they were, but man, I tell you, I felt good. If you're in recovery, or if you know anybody who's in recovery, you would probably remember that term, and I heard it or read about it. It was called a pink cloud. It's a term that's often referred to people who are going through similar experiences that I was. And when you face your demons, and believe me, we all got them. There's nobody that has exception to this rule. We all got them, no matter situation. We all got demons. We all got a dragon we have to face, and we have to be honest and truthful in order to really get onto that correct path. That's one thing I discovered. So the gifts were amazing, absolutely amazing. I got a new camera system. I got a new house. I got a new car. I fixed my finances. I was making more money. My business started to prosper. I was going to university. I was going to Toastmasters. I was getting very active in my professional photography association. People were coming up to me going, "You're different." But I like it. It's because I was becoming human. I was alive. I was filled with prosperity and creativity. I was filled with life. I was filled with my true self, my true identity. Because I faced those demons and I learned to dance. So I made a bunch of new friends back then too. What happens when you go through changes like that is you don't relate to a lot of your old friends, and they're looking at, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm enjoying this too much. So me and my new friends, we'd go to Backstreet. Remember Backstreet's opened around that time. And we started dancing with no booze. I didn't need booze. You know, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba. This is good. Man, I'm loving this. And I felt zero shame. I just felt pure art, pure life, pure creativity. I felt connected to everybody. And I never, up until that point in my life, had ever experienced any of those experiences without the help of a chemical called alcohol and cigarettes. And the occasional weed and maybe some acid and stuff. But life is good. So these things all happen to me, and all these gifts are really second place to the number one gift, which is a sense of self-confidence, sense of confidence, and all that goes with that. It just feels so good. And all of it led to me 5 years later meeting and marrying my beautiful wife, Tina. I somehow knew that I had to get my life together in order to make that happen, and then, of course, having a family and my beautiful daughter, Danielle. So these are all wondrous things that evolved out of me taking those steps and doing all the things that I needed to do in order to become alive, to become real, and to be my own authentic self. And then I learned how to dance. Thank you.